Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this Christmas holiday horror movie review video as part of my current December 2023 series. So, this will actually be the last movie in this series as we're almost at the end of the month and the end of the year, frankly. I was going to do 10, but as I mentioned in my community post that I put up a couple days ago, one of the movies wasn't available to me like I thought it was going to be. So, 10 became 9 and so this will be the final movie, but I am going to do a ranking video of all 9 of these Christmas movies for this series from my least favorite to my favorite, at least based on a one-time watch. It'll be coming up in a day or two, so stay tuned for that. But the last movie that we're going to go ahead and watch for this series is like most of them, I haven't seen it before, certainly haven't reviewed it on my channel before, but I've heard from a few people about it, and that is the British horror film Await Further Instructions that I have on DVD here. So, a film by Johnny Kevorkian. So, yeah, from 2018, Await Further Instructions. So, let's just go ahead and get into it. Get my notes here. So, Await Further Instructions is a 2018 British science fiction horror film written by Gavin Williams and directed by Johnny Kevorkian. The film follows the members of a dysfunctional family who are trapped in their house on Christmas by a mysterious black membrane that begins to send them cryptic instructions through text that appears on their television. So basically, the movie opens with Nick traveling to the home of his parents, Tony and Beth, to spend Christmas there and introduce the family to his girlfriend Angie, even though he has a strained relationship with his family at best. His pregnant sister Kate, her husband Scott, and his grandfather are also there. Tensions arise after Kate and the grandfather both make racist remarks to Angie, who is of Indian descent. The family members quickly find that they are surrounded by a strange black substance and that they cannot leave the home. They receive messages warning them that their food is contaminated and instructing them to cleanse themselves with bleach, as well as take vaccines which are dropped down the chimney. Angie is suspicious of the vaccines as the syringes look used, but Tony forces everyone to inject them. The grandfather suddenly dies while vomiting black liquid. So that's the setup and the premise. As far as the cast goes, we have Sam Gittins as Nick Milgram, Nurja Nayak as Angie, Grant Masters as Tony Milgram, Abigail Cuddington as Beth Milgram, Holly Weston as Kate Milgram, and Chris Sadler as Scott. Oh, and David Bradley as Granddad. A lot of you might know David Bradley from the Harry Potter franchise, who plays Filch. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for Await Further Instructions from 2018, the British science fiction horror film. Um, One thing I'll say, this isn't so much a Christmas horror movie, although there's a little bit of Christmas atmosphere and decor in the movie, particularly how the family comes together and at the beginning of the movie. But I'll get more into that. But really, this is a movie you could watch any time of the year, if I'm being perfectly honest, compared to some of the other Christmas horror movies that I reviewed for this series and that I even have in my collection here. But let's just get into it with the things that I liked about the movie. It's a pretty mixed bag for me. I'm not going to say it's a fantastic movie, but it's certainly not a bad movie. So it's a mixed bag. So we'll start with the things that I liked about it. And I really like the mystery aspect that goes on for most of the movie, trying to figure out what's going on and who or what is responsible for what's going on. I really found it to be intriguing and engaging just with the setup and the way that it transpires. And, you don't know if it's the government, you don't know if it's supernatural, you don't know if it's otherworldly. The movie does a pretty good job of kind of leaving you guess with different scenarios, at least through the first, 45 minutes to an hour, and then it's kind of revealed towards the end. But I just really like the mystery aspect of the movie. The movie obviously has a very unique and interesting premise, using a household object like a TV, basically like a phone, to communicate with people and to see how far they will go to listen and follow instructions from an outside source that they can't see or hear, um, but based on belief. That's really the horror in this movie to me. There's a little bit of on-screen horror at the end of the movie, the last 15-20 minutes, but the underlying horror of the movie is that people so blindly follow. And of course, that's very relevant to today in a lot of different aspects, news media, mainstream media, um, figureheads, things like that. So it was very relevant at the time that this movie came out. But to me, that's really the horror. The movie hits on many different themes, obviously, especially as I mentioned, believing and being dependent on news media or what comes across your television from an outside trusted source, generational upbringing and differences, prejudices among certain people, and lack of independent thought, as well as religious, diehard religious beliefs, basically. They're all kind of present in this movie, and it does raise a lot of discussion points and questions, which are always, I think that's always good in a horror movie, to be honest with you. Sometimes I just want to put a horror movie on and watch the blood fly, but sometimes in a lot of horror movies, like psychological or sci-fi, I like having those questions and those issues come up, and this movie certainly does that. So I did like that aspect. And I think the acting in this movie is really solid across the board. Not everybody's mainstream. There's a few actors that are fairly unknown in this movie. I think other than Grant Masters and David Bradley, I don't, and Abigail Cuddington as well. The other ones like Nurja Nayak and Holly Weston and Chris Sadler and even Sam Gittins, I don't know how much they've been and they're kind of unknowns. And this is a lower budget movie, by the way. I think it was actually a television movie, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so that makes sense. But I thought the acting was good for this movie, pretty much across the board. I mean, some are certainly better than others, but it feels like everyone is in this and they give the believable performances given the story and the circumstances here. So that's one thing that stood out. The movie does have a real claustrophobic and isolating setting in this house. And of course, that's where 95% of the movie takes place, is all within inside this house. I think it works pretty well to keep the viewer engaged, especially in the mystery of what this family is experiencing. So I give the movie credit there. The effects are, I have to say, are pretty good in this movie, especially for a lower budget TV movie. I thought the effects were good, better than I expected. They do a solid job of coming across as believable, especially regarding the black substance that's entrapping them within this house. And there's some things at the end as well, some moving parts that I thought came across well, especially as I said, when you consider that it's a lower budget movie. Um, let's see. And then finally, I think this movie has an effective runtime of 90 minutes. It has good pacing. That really has no slow parts that bog the movie down, in my opinion. You could argue the only like slow parts are probably the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie where we're kind of getting to know this dysfunctional family and all these characters within the family. But even that I find somewhat interesting, not overly interesting, but once the shit hits the fan, so to speak, the movie really takes off from there. And like I said, it's very well paced. So yeah, those are my pros for await further instructions from 2018. As far as getting into cons or things that didn't work for me, the big one is going to be the family and the dynamics of all these characters. It's definitely the weakest part of the movie to me, as many of the family members are very stereotypical and one note, basically one note written characters. Therefore, I feel like the movie goes on, and this as the movie goes on and the stakes get higher, we really don't have a strong attachment to many of these characters, many of these family members, and that really takes away from the impact that this movie could have had, in my opinion. They're just like I said, the acting's good, but I don't think the writing of the characters was all that good, and obviously a lot of these characters aren't very likable. We don't root for them, and I think that was on purpose, but man, I know this is a dysfunctional family, and I guess it would have had to have been for this to work on the scale that it did, because I can't see even a family that actually loves each other, even if they're not close. I can't quite see it play out this way. But yeah, I don't know. The characters and the writing of it and just the whole family dynamics was really hard for me to get involved in or care about or get attached to any of them, frankly. The characters themselves are not that well written, as I said. Certainly 80% of them are not likable or, in many cases, even relatable to most people. I mean, I know there's people out there that are involved in dysfunctional families, and they'll probably say that they hit the nail right on the head with some of this stuff. But man, I don't know. As a movie like this, I think it would have had a lot more impact if the family would have been a little bit more realistic, a little bit more relatable to people like myself. I'm not saying I have the closest knit family in the world, but certainly we're not dysfunctional, I wouldn't say. So, But I feel like it really, as a result, again, the viewers really disconnected from the story, and it hurts the movie overall as a result of not feeling attached to these characters or related to these characters, relatable, I should say. There are a lot of questionable decisions, of course, that are made as well by the family members turning on each other, frankly, a little quicker and easier than most families would, even families that aren't that close knit, even dysfunctional ones. It just felt a little too convenient for me. It felt a little too, oh, the TV screen told me to torture my son, so that's what I'm going to do without. Again, I know it goes to that theme of not questioning outside authority and stuff, but it's just like this is a family member of yours. I have a hard time. I just have a hard time with that aspect of the movie. Um, so yeah, that's one thing that really holds it back. And then because this is a Christmas holiday horror movie review series, this movie, well, it does have some Christmas decor in the background, and the holiday of Christmas is what brings his family together. The movie really could take place any time of the year. It's really not tied to Christmas generally. I feel kind of like it's. I'm not going to get into a diehard discussion, but like Christmas is more in the background than it is actually a function of this movie. Like nobody's dressing up as Santa Claus and killing people, kind of thing. So it's fine. I guess you can classify it as a holiday Christmas horror movie if you want to. I view it more as a British science fiction horror movie that just happens to have Christmas in the background. It's not really a. I guess I can't really hold that as a con against the movie. It's just more of a con for this review series. Since I was told it is a Christmas movie, I kind of have my questions on that. Also, I didn't feel like the lighting in this movie was all that good in certain scenes, especially that probably has to do with the lower budget nature of this movie. That's probably where that comes in. But I just don't think the lighting was as effective as it could have been uh, to really bring the story to life. I kind of felt like that was a missed opportunity. And again, it's a lower budget movie, so I guess some of that's to be expected. And then that kind of takes me on my final point, which is as much as the things that I liked about this movie, I feel like the premise and the story and the idea of this are better than the execution of the movie. I mean, I kind of when the movie ended, I was kind of like, oh, that was interesting, but I wasn't blown away. But I feel like this is a movie that almost it's a shame they couldn't get a higher budget, like big studio production, because I feel like this is the kind of movie that really would have benefited from that. And as a result, I feel like you have a better premise and idea that totally overshadows the execution of it. Not that the execution's garbage, but it just doesn't quite go to that scale that I think it could for this kind of premise and story. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But that kind of stuck out to me as I thought about it more after finishing the movie. So yeah, that's my thoughts, my review for Await Further Instructions from 2018. Overall, it's not a bad watch. I'm glad to have it in my collection. Like I said, you don't have to watch it at Christmas time. This is probably going to be an every other year movie again for me. I think I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 because there are enough things that I like to sort of put it over the 5 to 6 scale. But it does have some things that hold me back, especially the family dynamics and the lower budget as far as being wowed by it. So 7 out of 10 for Await Further Instructions from 2018. Go ahead and comment down below if you guys have seen this movie, what your thoughts are about it. Do you like it more than I do, less than I do? Why not? I've seen a pretty wide range of reviews. The critics seem to like the movie more than the people do, which is often the case a lot of times. So, but please like this video, hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my well, I guess there's only one video left for this series. That's going to be my ranking of these 9 Christmas horror movies. But be sure to subscribe to my channel as well. I'm working out like the first 8 months of 2024 as far as what I have planned. So you don't want to miss any of that. So be sure to subscribe to my channel down below. I will actually too have a 2024 channel sort of preview video of what that's going to look like coming up here around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So with all that being said, I hope you're enjoying this series or enjoyed this series if you don't catch my final ranking video. I certainly had fun bringing it out to you. It's always good watching new movies that I haven't seen before but have heard about. But yeah, I hope everybody's having a happy holiday season. If you don't watch any of my videos before, Happy New Year to everybody. And of course, stay scared. Bye.